Welcome to the Heavenly Treasury broadcast where we help believers achieve God's financial abundance for your life. I'm your host, Ron Turbo, author of the Heavenly Treasury series on biblical finance. I can say that officially today because the book launches today. And I'm really thrilled about this book. Again, I went through a lot of the process of writing the book last time. But again, the main point is that it does officially launch today. So every one of you who got pre-sales, they will be shipped out today, and you should receive that very, very shortly. So if you got it on Barnes & Noble, if you got it from Amazon, wherever you got it from, it should be arriving in your mailbox anytime now. Okay, so look out for it, and I'm really thrilled to be able to share this with you. Really, the most important thing for me is that you get a mighty touch and a word from the Lord for you and for your life. And I mean that wholeheartedly and sincerely, because what I will certainly tell you is my prayer for every single person who reads the first volume of the book, which isn't entirely, yes, there's a foundation that we're going to be building on money, 100% for sure. But what I am going to tell you is that there's a lot in here that's going to build a foundation for you to receive the upcoming volumes after this one. Because if you don't do this one, if you don't do the first volume and read it and do what it says, not really what it says, but really what the Bible says, I'm just hopefully doing the best way I can of paraphrasing, you know what I'm talking about, to be able to convey the message, that the biblical message about truly fearing the Lord and what it means for you. Because a lot of people really, when it comes down to the road of life that they're supposed to be on, it's very difficult for them. Because it's very challenging to do a lot of the things that the Lord tells you to do. And there's a purpose for that. It's to refine you and to get you to the next level. And next level means more finances. Okay? So that's really the most important thing when it comes to fearing the Lord, is for you to get on the path that He wants for you, doing what He wants you to do, when He wants you to do it, and being able to do it with a great and cheerful manner. Knowing that no matter what is going on around you, there's always a better life ahead of you. And that's faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen yet. Yet, meaning you see it in the spirit, but it hasn't manifested physically. That's what we're referring to here. So that's the most important thing when it comes to this. Okay. So again, if you don't have the book and you'd like to purchase it, so the link is in the description below. If you're watching live on Twitch right now, there's a panel right there, Volume 1, Fear of the Lord. You just click the panel, and the link will take you right to the book. And so that I would strongly prefer you to get the hard copy. And the reason for that is every single one of these books is going to be fairly short in terms of page length. It's not going to be something that's going to take you 3 weeks to read. My hope is that you could finish this in a long weekend. That's my hope for every single one of these books, is that you get a lot of good nuggets out of this that you can take with your life and move it forward. So that's the most important thing, that I don't get any credit for this. I want God to get all the credit. I really do. Yes, I'm the author, I'm the vessel, I'm the one that did this. Yes, I am. At the same time, I want to be able to say this is what God did through the book. And yes, my efforts wrote the book. I'm not discounting that. I'm not going to say I didn't do it, because I'm sure that the Lord has called a lot of people to write books. They have. And for whatever reason, they just choose not to. I went over last time what it takes to write a simple book. Not an earth-shattering dictionary, but just your first book is not very complicated. Now this one, it took me a long time to write. I think the very first time I started writing this was in 2020, I believe it was, and started studying the scriptures in 2018 or 2019. So it's been a minute since I started this project, but this is the first. I'm not going to say this is the beginning of the end. It's certainly not that whatsoever. Because even if all 20 something volumes or whatever I have right now came out, that wouldn't say, oh well, I'm done. I did my purpose and now I'm gone to heaven. No, this is a basis for everything that I want to do with my life and the purpose that I have for the Lord. And I want you to figure out what your purpose is, and you'll get that through this. You will. There's a lot of good stories, a lot of good details. You'll get a lot of scriptures out of this. Really, at the very end, we talk about conquering your fears. And really, because a lot of the things that you're scared of doing right now, that you should be doing, if you really feared the Lord, you would have already done them. Not only have already begun them, but already completed them by now. That's scary to think about. Because if you were called to move to some other place in the country months ago and you still haven't done it, well, had you done it the first time, you'd already be moved, you'd already be settled, you'd already have a new place, you'd already have a new profession or client or whatever you're doing out there. Okay? So that's what this is going to get you off your keister to light a fire. That's what it's going to do. And I really hope and pray that happens for you. So, I mean, really, the last part of this book, I go through just to go through the chapters with you right now. Introduction, fear of the Lord, of course, the very beginning. What is fear of the Lord? Heavenly fear trumps earthly fear. Okay? That's not a pun on the 2024 election. I had no idea that anybody like that would ever run for president. Believe me, not getting tangent, promise you that. Okay? I certainly will when it comes to election time. I'll certainly tell you what kings and leaders do from a financial point of view in the Bible. And I have been, it's something that has taken me a long time to think about, because in the debt book that's going to come out, that's going to be earth shattering. And that's going to be volume, I don't know what volume that is. It's already written, but it's one that I was, my fingers were literally shaking when I was typing it. That's how insane it was for me to write. And I don't say that lightly. A lot of people think, oh, this is insane, because they read Twitter and the first, or X, whatever it is, and they read the first headline and they just get outraged for the rest of the day and do nothing to do with their life. That's not what I'm referring to. But I am referring to who really runs the country. And I'll get to that in a moment. This is not that topic, I promise you. If I get enough interest in it, then yes, I may do that prior to election time. But when it comes to who's really runs your country, the Bible does explain it. Who really does. And it's not who you think it is. That I can promise you. Right? Now, maybe you know who it is, but you're not really sure how to explain it or where it comes from, but you just kind of know this is what it is, so to speak. And that's good, and that'll happen. Okay, but yeah, that by far is one of the most earth-shattering books I never thought I would ever publish. I don't even know if my publisher, even as a self-publisher, who is really a self-publisher, they don't care about creative content. They don't approve content. They just say, "Oh, you want to write, and go out and publish it." It doesn't matter what you want to talk about. You could talk about murder. You could talk about rape, child pedophilia, all that stuff. They'll put it in there for you. Now, it may not appear in a bookstore because Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those places do have to sort of seam through your book and ensure that they're not putting stuff that they don't want on their platform. That is part of who they are. But just at the same token, for most people, you can write some very bizarre content and get it published. I'll just tell you, heart of hearts, I don't know if my publisher or even the sites that currently are selling this book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, will publish and upload the debt book. That's how really critical it is for you and your future, because it's so beyond crazy. Yeah, that's just as a preview, because now that Volume 1 has officially been launched, now we're starting to think about Volume 2, Volume 3, and so forth, and what it's all going to mean for you. Again, the whole purpose of this book is not for you to get nice information. If that's all it did, I failed. Let me say that again. If all you got out of this book was nice information, I failed. Okay? My point is for you to set you up in a great place for God to mightily use you. And when God mightily uses you, there is a very large financial blessing that comes through that. And that's obeying his commands, doing what he wants you to do, and all that. Because really, at the end of the day, if you're not going to do what the Lord asks you to do, you're not going to receive the financial blessing that he promises. That's really the unique thing about Heavenly Treasury. Because I wrote that title, the main title of the series, for that reason, is that God's treasury is infinite. He owns all the gold, all the silver, all the money. He owns it all. Every single trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, however many dollars, pesos, yens, francs there are out there, euros, God owns it all. And there's plenty of money to go around. So anytime that you think that, oh my goodness, there's some finite pie that we can't all eat from, there's always more. There's always plenty more in the bakery oven, so to speak. Not to use that analogy or saying that God's treasury in heaven is a bunch of blueberry pies that he just throws out to people. No, I promise you, it's not that. But what I definitely am telling you, that there is a future in there. All the finances that come from the Bible. I'll just tell you this right now. uh, it's very easy for you to get lost when it comes to the money scriptures in the Bible, because there's over 2,000 of them. There are, and I got in I wouldn't say a heated argument, but more of a very frank discussion with a podcast host that wanted to have me on the program, and I told the individual, hey, listen, there's over 2,000 scriptures in the Bible. Why is that the case? That's a topic they wanted me to discuss. And I proposed that topic, and he said, no, there's not. That's impossible. That you're just some money-hungry guy. And I'll just go back in my spirit-filled cave. Awesome. You go do that. And for things that you pray for and are believing for and have to fast for, I'll write a check, and we'll see who gets used more mightily. And we'll, when you and I both get to heaven, we'll hug, we'll celebrate, and then we'll look at what each of one of us has done and who had the greater impact. You in your spirit-filled cave, or me writing checks. I'm sorry. If you don't like that, take it up with God, because that's how the world works. It does. There are people out there in two very similar positions that one person is praying and believing for financial miracles, which I will show you how to get. Believe me, it's not just God give me more money, because that's not going to work. There's things you can do that provoke the financial blessing of the Lord. There are. And that's one person over there. Another person is serious about his economic endeavors, and just when the same problem comes the other guy does, he just writes a check and moves on and prays about other things. So he now has the effort to pray for his loved one who just got cancer and maybe doesn't believe in the spiritual healing of the Bible. That's something that they can do that the other person can't, because they're so focused on getting underwater financially. That's really what it comes down to, is if you're not going to be serious about your economic endeavors, guess what? The Lord's got to find somebody else. Sorry. You may not like that, but it's true. Even if you're called to run a nonprofit, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they're destined for poverty. You don't. Okay? So you'll find a lot of people, if you're in that position, especially in the ministry. Just because you're in the ministry doesn't mean you're subjected to a life of poverty either. There's plenty of rich ministers out there, and they didn't get that way by dipping their hand in the offering bucket. They got it through the blessing of the Lord. And if you're wondering why a lot of the rich and wealthy ministers in America or even around the world talk about giving so much, it's not because they want you to give so they can fund their nice lifestyle. If they're doing it the right way, they're doing it because they know it provokes the blessing of the Lord for them in the ministry. All right? And so that's why they talk about that quite often. And if you're running a nonprofit right now, you're going to get very wealthy the same way that a minister would in sort of sense, because what God has called you to do is not necessarily employing 10,000 people and running $1 billion company. That's not what the Lord called you to do. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're subjected to a life of poverty. That's also what I'm going to explain in a lot of the further books down the line about whatever God has called. Because here's one thing. Here's a problem that I have seen, especially in the church world, that I would believe that I'm trying to rectify. Okay? So I will tell you this right now. All the financial abundance in the Bible promised to you is yours. I put on the very back of the book, right here. What does that say? Financial abundance is your birthright as a follower of Jesus. It is. Jesus died to break the curse of the law. Part of that curse is poverty. So you don't have to live poor. You don't. Unless you choose to, then you can. But there's biblical ways for you to get out. You're talking to somebody who literally had negative $10,000 in his bank account at one time. So don't tell me that I'm just spouting out this from theory or something like that and all of that. Promise you, I'm not. And I will certainly get to that story on a future book. That's in the very last book, is my journey to where I am today personally, and it's still developing, which is a very good thing. And yours is going to develop also. So yeah, that's really important. So but really getting back to the point is, what I want to be able to rectify in the body is that there are certain people who are called to certain areas. And I'm not saying you're called to run a pool company. You're called to run a tree company. I'm talking about you're called to the ministry. You're called to be a missionary. You're called to be a business owner. You're called to be a government official. You're called to run a nonprofit. Those are 5 very different areas that the Lord calls people to. And if you're called to an area that's not business, that doesn't mean you're subjected to a life of poverty. You're not. But I'm going to tell you this right now, and this is where I don't think anybody else has really helped the body in this sense. that all those those groups that I just described, all 5 of them will use 5 different methods to get wealthy, to generate income. Okay? That's very, very different than any message, because if you're not called to the ministry and you go to a wealthy ministry, and believe me, I sow into them. I'm not ashamed to do it. Okay? I am not ashamed to say that I have sowed a large chunk of income that I have into Jesse Duplantis' ministry. I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm happy because the guy flies around the world saving souls in his mid-70s. Most people in their mid-70s are on rocking chairs and doing nothing with their lives. Okay? I'm thankful that my dad is not one of those people either. He's in his mid-70s. He's doing things with his life. Okay? So that's really why I like him. Besides the fact that he's really funny and saves a lot of souls. But putting that aside, if you're a business owner and you go to a Jesse Duplantis meeting, and I've been to them multiple times, believe me, they're very good, spirit-filled. But the way he talks about generating income for somebody is very different, because that's how he lived. That's how he became wealthy. That's how he got the largest house in the state of Louisiana. I think it's 38,000 square feet. 38,000 square foot house. My current house is smaller than his guest house. I mean, the guy is wealthy beyond belief. And he got it through very unique means that most people, unless you're called to the very path that he's on, are not going to be able to get that. You're not going to be able to get, if you're a business owner, you're not called to go out and preach 6-7 times a week. You're not. Jesse is. Pastor Jesse is. Brother Jesse is. So that's how he generates his income, because he sows a lot of money. He gives away a lot of money. He's very generous with his own personal money and his ministry money. So guess what happens? Give and it shall be given back to you. But the method he uses to do that is by consistently preaching every single day. If not every day, every week, twice a week, 3 times a week, all of that. He doesn't have a nice, unique plane for himself to go preach once a week every Sunday. He doesn't do that. He does it because that plane allows him to get places that he couldn't otherwise get. Okay, I don't apologize for that, and I know he doesn't. Thrill to him. Brother Jesse, if you're watching this, keep going, man. Live till you're 120 and keep preaching. All right. But what I'm telling you is, why people hate a guy like that is because the method that he got wealthy, is by preaching a lot and giving a lot. And there's a lot more to it. Believe me, I'm not a minister. I know there's a lot more to his success than just those two. Oversimplifying it, I know. But from a core perspective, that's the way that I have seen, just as an outsider looking in, for somebody who's not in the ministry, for people who are wealthy ministers that kept their wealth and continue to grow. That's how they got wealthy. That's the method that they used. That is not the same method that a business owner uses. A business owner has to go out and make sales. A business owner has to go out and market. A business owner has to lead people in business and create brand new products and services that the world has not seen yet. That's very different than preaching the gospel. And so, yes, the end result is the same. The blessing of the Lord makes a man rich and adds no sorrow. But the method that they both use, those two guys, both called by the Lord, both in the place that they want to be in, both in the place they're called to be in, the same financial action, the same net worth, but very different routes. And that's where a lot of people really miss it. And that's what I want to rectify for them. Because there's a lot of people who maybe think, I'm working hard in my business. I'm working. And then all of a sudden they show up to a Jonathan Shuttlesworth meeting and he talks about giving the way he does. And I love the way the guy preaches. He does. He's about my age, and he's one of the fastest growing ministries on planet Earth. Okay, he knows what he's talking about. But a lot of times that message can be construed if you're not called to the ministry. If you're in business and you're struggling, and now you hear a message on an offering for 30, 45 minutes from the guy, well, guess what? It can come off as, well, why am I making sales? Why am I trying to market? Why am I trying to kill myself? Why don't I just go give money and just sit? Because that's the way a lot of those messages can come off if you're not called to that arena. And that's what I want to rectify, especially with a lot of the books. So whatever avenue you're called to be in, and I'm going to speak to what, but before it's all said and done, I'm going to speak to preachers, I'm going to speak to ministers, I'm going to speak to business owners, I'm going to speak to nonprofits, I'm going to speak to government officials, all of it, because the method is different, but the principles are still the same. So that's what foundation number 1 is going to give you, is fear of the Lord. Doing what the Lord calls you to do in the avenue that he wants you to do it, in the way he wants it done. That's the most important thing. So that's what this book is. Again, why am I talking about it now? Because the book just launched today. I am no longer an author of an upcoming series. I am the author of the series now, which is fantastic. Okay, my goal again is not. Every single person who writes a book wants massive sales. They do. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. All right. But my primary motive with this, that is a secondary motive, a very high secondary motive. But the primary motive is for God to speak to you through this book. That's the main goal. And I know a lot of authors say that, but I'm going to tell you this. I do not apologize for anything in the Bible when it comes to finances. Nothing. 100-fold, don't apologize for it. The righteous shall possess the land, don't apologize for it. Nothing. Give and it shall be given unto you, don't apologize for it. Solomon collecting $1 billion in passive income every year as a king, not apologizing for it. Don't do it. Not at all. So if you are in a position right now where you are willing, where you need to make a change, or you think that the Lord has called you to do something, but you're not really quite sure, and you really need some confirmation, this is where this book is really going to help you. The first volume of this, Fear of the Lord. And so I cannot stress this enough. Okay, just the few questions that I ask on the background to get you thinking. What is fear of the Lord? Why is fear of the Lord important to the believer? How does fear of the Lord highlight my heavenly assignment? That's important for most of you. How can fear of the Lord lead to wealth and riches? Why does fear of the Lord keep me safe during economic downturns? How do I use fear of the Lord to conquer my earthly fears? How can fear of the Lord be utilized to achieve victories for his kingdom? Those are 8 questions that you will answer. Excuse me, that's 7 questions. Okay. Yep, seven bullet points. Can't count today for whatever reason. All right, but 7 bullet points that you will answer, that will be answered for you from the Lord with the book. So it's going to get you on the right path. It's going to get you to not apologize for anything that you're currently doing, whatever plan and purpose you have that you think maybe you don't have anybody in your corner right now. I'm going to be in your corner. I'm going to be in your corner. I am. So that's what I want to highlight to you right now is the book is now officially launched. Okay. And I'll just go ahead and read the first paragraph of the final chapter. Okay. For you. Now you understand why we fear the Lord instead of man. You also know that his word guarantees many blessings from fearing God in your life. We have compassion from God. We flourish in our trials. Our lives are a secure fortress. Our family and legacy gets saved. We have his divine protection. We are heard when we cry out to God. We learn wisdom and knowledge. We don't get rejected or neglected by God. We achieve wealth. We lack nothing. We remain on his path for our lives. What wonderful blessings we have in store for us. Every single one of those is scriptural, by the way. And I put those scriptures in here because scriptures that promise blessings are things that you need to pay attention to. Because those are things that God has right on a silver platter just for you. He does. And you'll learn about those. You'll learn that this is going to be a very different financial series than anything you've ever read before. Okay? Because if everything other finance book was doing great, every other biblical finance book was doing great, well, we'd be in a very different position financially. We would. So this is a start to that. This is a start. A very small start, but a start nonetheless. So with that being said, thank you so much. If you read the book and you get something out of it, I want to hear about it. Okay, so my email is below. I'll certainly get to that. One of our team members will pass it to me, and I'll be able to see it and hear it. Hopefully, I get a boatload of emails saying, I read your book, I found your book by some supernatural means. I bought it, and then I read it, and then this is what the Lord's done for me since. I want every single one of those to just continue to flow in and flood and flood and flood. If that's what floods my inbox, so be it. I'm happy with that. All right? That's really what I want you to focus on right now is to be able to get a touch from the Lord and know exactly where you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. I don't care if I know there's going to be somebody reading this right now who's going to read the whole thing, all 60-something pages of it, maybe low 70 pages. And all they're going to get out of it is 1 or 2 sentences in some paragraph in one of the chapters. And that's all they're going to get. But those 2 sentences are going to change their life forever. That's what I want to hear about. If that's you, write me a note. And I promise you that I'll be so happy to hear that the Lord is touching you in a mighty, mighty way. Okay. With that being said, thank you guys so much. Go ahead and again, the link to the book is below. Okay. If you're watching the recording, it's in the description. If you're watching me on Twitch right now, it's in one of the panels. Just click the panel, and you'll be able to go right to BarnesandNoble.com and buy it. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful, blessed day.